Bonsoir. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Dor. I'm so happy to see you.
As well, likewise. It's been a while.
It's been a while. I'm in Quebec. You are in Denmark, Australia.
Yeah.
There's a 12 hours difference between you and I. And the only time that worked for us was my 7 o'clock in the evening and your 7 in the morning.
Yeah. Very early for a podcast, but good to start early, yeah.
Yeah, quite late for me, but it's good. I was full of energy. You are actually one of my only and best online friend. I realized that we met years ago. I discovered moving creatures through Instagram, and I fell in love immediately with the universe you created. I still remember the first video I saw, and it was the one of a little girl playing with very simple things from her home. And I decided to contact you and just say hi. I like your work, and I invited you to our podcast, and I think the following year we had weekly meetings where we could talk for hours at a time. And today we only have an hour and a half, so we'll have to to shorten our discussion a bit to the usual, what's usual for us. So I'm deeply moved that we are still talking to each other after such a long time and collaborating also on some projects. We'll talk about it. But I know your story is so important and inspiring, so we can start with that. Your project, your social project, Moving Creatures. How did that come to life? How did that come to life?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure. And you're the first podcast I've ever been interviewed to. And I think looking back at that, I was really empowered by that, because you kind of like, someone thinks what you're doing is valuable and it's special. So I remember how it was 4 years ago, something like that, 5 years, yeah. I don't know.
Maybe 5, I don't know.
Yeah, when Mark Aurel was just an idea. So how did my project start? So I'll go a bit back to explain my background and then how it leads to what I'm doing today. So I'm Israeli originally, living in the end of the world here in Australia, in a very rural place right now. But my biggest passion since I was youth was the martial arts of capoeira, which is a playful martial arts, which is very reciprocal and infinite and tribal kind of art that I fell in love when I was young with. And that led me to train a lot in the art, but also to go to Brazil and live in real kind of it's called the favelas, like the poverty areas, the hardcore areas of Brazil, just because that's where the capoeira came from. So I wanted to really experience what it is to live in that kind of life and to really connect to the culture. It's a very cultural martial art. And that trip to Brazil when I was 22 really changed my life. I was very, very much inspired by my teacher there, the master, and he was working a lot with the kids, youth and adults of the favela. And with that playful movement modality, he really transformed their lives. So in those kind of areas, it's either you're in the drug business or you do something that is beneficial. And he was very clear cut. Like, if you are a capoeirista, if you're a person who does capoeira, you do not drink, you do not do drugs. You even though you don't have like clean clothes a lot of the time, your outfit would be spotless, like a lot of structure in a life that is very chaotic. And he just transformed many people to have an amazing life. And a lot of his students are now teachers in all around the world doing amazing stuff, or in Brazil still, but really honorable, inspiring people. So when I left Brazil, I came with this idea. This is what I want to do. I want to teach in the most rural places. I want to teach for people who really need it. So I went to teach in the south of Israel, in the desert, in a place called Dimona, and all kind of really rural places where it's people don't go there usually. It's and I started to teach capoeira while I was training as well, and I was learning psychology and education in the university. And there I met my first student. He was 12, is Shavit, and I'll get back to him because I opened the company with him afterwards, the project. And I did that for years. I was working with youth at risk, with kids from rural places, and I was bringing this martial art to their life, and it was amazing. And very privileged to have that time. I grew up a lot. I understood a lot. And then I came back to Tel Aviv, where I'm originally from. I opened a big martial arts and dance studio with my coach and partner at the time. And we continued to do it in a bigger scale, with always opening our studio to kind of youth at risk or people in need. Then a few years after, the studio, it was very hard to make it financial, because Tel Aviv is a very expensive city and they don't really put high considerations on the arts, so it's very hard to hold such a big studio in the city. And we had to close down, but the school next to the city next to the studio it's called Bialik Rogozin. It's a very famous school in the world. It's a school for refugees and immigrants. So there's 1,000 kids from 6-year-old to 18 that are kids of refugees or immigrants of work, and kids from 50 countries around the world. It's just the most amazing place you can imagine. And from like early stages, I opened my studio to that school and said, you are welcome, just come. So a lot of kids from African origin, which is like capoeira is originally an African art. It's an Afro-Brazilian art. And I got to know the school very well, and they got to know me. So when I closed the studio, I went for a few months to Brazil again. I actually went with Shavit, my first student from Dimona, which he was my student first. Then he became my assistant coach when he was 16, and afterwards a good friend and a colleague. Today, he's a very successful teacher of capoeira in the rural parts in the south, where he's coming from. And Shavit is a good example of what when you find something you love and something that makes you feel alive, how it can transform your life. Because this is a kid that the school system was really hard for him. He didn't finish high school. He was always like, they thought, something is slow or something like that. But then when he comes to the studio, he's the best. But he's the best also in emotional intelligence. So he's like the best teacher. He's like so natural. Besides the fact that he's physically gifted, not the most gifted, but like, he's really devoted, and he has it, and he just loves it. He loves everything. He loves the music. He loves the play. He loves the movements, but he also loves the teaching. And I found that since he was very young, so committed, So when he was 16, he was my assistant coach. He was amazing. I was like, wow. He's like, he loves the kids. He loves. And when he was young, I promised him and his father that I will take him one day to Brazil. Like, he doesn't know English, doesn't know Portuguese, so he wasn't feeling secure to go alone. So he finished his military service, and we went and we did that trip. So I was in a very weird part of my life. I was in this crossroad, and I needed to decide, okay, where am I, what am I doing now? I closed my studio, what am I doing? And then this kid who was 12 at the time, and now he's 23, he's helping me in this crossroad in my life. And we're in Brazil, like living, like playing and practicing with the biggest masters alive. And this was a very transformative trip for us. And when I came back to the roots again of like, I wanna help this kind of favela kids. The school was in my head, the people who needed the most. So I went to the principal, I went to talk to him, and he was like, all right, you need to come and work for us. You know what I mean? So I never worked in any formal education system or any system. Like, I was always doing my thing. And he's like, you're going to be an educator. You're going to teach 5 things. And I'm like, and gave me everything. And I want you to bring your zest. I want you to bring your entrepreneurial thing. So I did. I did like huge projects. I took everything on me. And I learned, while I was teaching, I did my certificate in teaching. You know, like, I had a degree, but it wasn't enough. So that was an amazing time of my life. I worked like 5-6 years in that school, and I was incorporating 2 things that I always, until today, I did projects around personalized education. So a lot about mentorship and understanding that, like, kind of bringing the informal to the formal education. So I believe that you need to learn what your heart's desires. So all the time tinkering and finding what the students want, you know, because that's education. It's to unravel what's your potential in your core, with a lot of other things. But that was always my main thing, because then you will have students like Shavi to find something that sparks them, and they get good at it, and they help others to get good at it. And that's what I saw in Brazil. That's what I experienced with my students, and that's what I wanted to give also to the formal system of trying to all the time average everyone to some kind of a weird pattern that we still try to. We go to therapy now to try to deal with what the education school did to us and whatever. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
So where was I? I was teaching there, so I was doing a lot of personal education, a lot of movement education. So it was a lot of, we were building gardens, and we were being a lot outside of the schools. I was working a lot around environmental sustainability. Also, I did capoeira martial arts, so I was the fun teacher, let's say.
Very humble teacher.
No, it's not good to be the fun teacher a lot of the time. The kids actually like the strict one, you know, because they feel very safe when in general, people feel safe when they are told what to do. Not that when you're evoking people to think, what do you want to do? Or what can be an amazing life? And then they start to get, this requires effort. And when you're not used to it from a young age, then that brings you anxiety. And then I'm not so much the fun teacher. I'm like the teacher, what do you want from us? You know what I mean? Just give us math and you know, language and stuff. So that's an interesting thing. Also with adults. I do it today with adults. From that I moved to a bigger school. We did it on a national level, this project of finding your passions, and it was very successful. And then moving to the last part of Moving Creatures. So now it's been already 5 years. My father Bensi, he suddenly passed away. It was a very transformative time in my life and my family's life. I'll tell you a few things to put in context about my father and then how this project came to life. So he got ill from cancer, and it was very fast, his decline. He died like 2 months after his diagnosis. And my father was a great man, and was also a very big man. Like he was big in his personality, but he's also big physically. He was, in a way, there was contradiction there. So he was a very successful man in the outside for the culture, like big role, very influential, successful financially as well as his reputation, but he hated anything to do to health, like or to well-being. Like he hated to move. He was smoking all the time. He was working all the time. He was like, I remember he loved to eat. I also like to eat, but when we go to restaurants, he would park on the restaurant. Like he didn't care about the fine. He just didn't want to walk even like a few meters. You know, he just parked in front of the door of the restaurant. And that thing made him very weak physically. Like, with time, you like to abuse yourself in that way. He was also very much addictive to all the time being busy. So when the screens came, meaning we had the television screen, but then when the smartphone came and the laptops and all those iPads, he had like 4 screens in front of him. He was like, give me more stimulus. And, you know, you kind of live life and things are like, you're like a fish in the water. So you kind of see it and it's all around you in culture. So you don't think something is very wrong. It's actually, is the normal. But then
he's rewarded.
Yeah, sorry.
It's the normal, and he is rewarded.
And he's rewarded. That's exactly that's the weird that puzzles you. Like, wow, you know, your success story, and you die like at 66. You never got to be a grandparents. It really, until today, detrimental for my mother's well-being. The fact that he passed away, and all of us kind of. So. You like easily he could have lived much longer, you know what I mean? Like you never know. We're not, but in average, if he took care of himself, most likely that he would live much longer. And we had more of him, and I wish we had more of him. But so it took me on like as an educator, it took me on a kind of a spinning thing of like I'm going into the rabbit hole to understand what's happening, what made him, because when he was young, he was actually physically active, but then at some point he started to hate moving. What happened? So then I went into this rabbit hole and discovered this whole culture of sedentarism and this world of physical inactivity, how we get rewarded kind of the comfort crisis, and everything is more comfortable, and you get bombarded with things just not to be, more about to have. It's all about to have something to entertain me, to have something to purchase, to have something to eat, to have something to smoke. Not about to be. And what I've noticed, and this is how the other aspect of it, that me and him didn't have any physical connection. And we hardly have any intimacy between us in our relationship. Because when his body got numb, and that's what I see. Like he didn't listen to the cues of the body anymore. He didn't listen to the cues of other people. So you get also numb emotionally with the numbness physically. It's kind of what happens. That's how you kind of protect yourself. You have a shield of, overweight, but also a shield of something that is blocking you from the world. You're not really in touch with the world. You're not really realizing yourself. There is no connection. And I really felt that when I was in the hospital, I was helping him in those nights in the hospital. The first time I'm touching my dad for years, instead of except of shaking his hands, kind of, you know what I mean? So that was really, and I'm a very touchy guy. I work with movement all my life, and I'm like, that's wrong. And then moving creatures kind of came to life. So I understood I wanna put my emphasis on that topic and the connection between ourselves to our bodies, and specifically between parents and kids, because that's what I felt I needed the most to solve or to change in the world. And then it's funny because I was in connection, you know, me and Shavit, my student from since he was 12 in the South, we were still in good connection. And I saw him play with his nephew, like in ways that only Shavit knows, you know, just the most creative, amazing. He used to show me, like, he lives still in the South, so he used to show me videos of what he's doing with him. And this kid is like 3 and he's doing amazing stuff. And I was like, this is what we need. We need more connection. We need more time. And he was playing with like socks and stuff in the house. That I was like, Shavit, let's do this project. Let's introduce what we know from more than 20 years of capoeira and playing with the bodies. And I played with a lot of modalities of physical play, let's say, with dance, with martial arts, with sports, tons of stuff I've been doing all my life. And then the idea of moving creatures came to life, and we opened this company together. We used to sit for hours and just imagine and write different games that parents and kids can play together. And that time, my partner and I, Jordine, she's Australian, and she wanted to move back to Australia to do her master's in dance therapy. So she's a dancer and a therapist. And so I needed also something to work from afar. So then moving creatures came, and then I moved to Australia. I didn't know what to do. I had this little pilot, this card game with this little pilot we did with parents and kids playing together. It was like showing them through online games how they can interact and reciprocally play and just be in connection with their bodies, with one another's body, to bring that attunement, the thing that I was missing the most. And also it was kind of the idea of the project was to kind of we're people like got attracted to it because they wanted to do something with the kids and for the kids to get moving, but I was actually targeting the adults more. You know, I wanted the adults to go on the floor. I wanted the adults to reimagine their homes. I wanted the adults to revive this inner child in them that is allowed, that it's counterculture, that it's okay to go on the floor, it's okay to play, it's okay to imagine. And through your child, through that connection, to rediscover your playfulness. And yeah, we arrived to Australia, then COVID happened, and we were kind of, everybody, all the world was kind of locking in. And I had a few games that we already filmed in our pilot session, and I put them online, and I started to create this website. And then I met you, and then you saw them. Yeah. A lot of people saw them. And yeah, that's the start of Moving Creatures. So that was a long intro, but I hope it gives a little background. Yeah, it's a story. It's a story. Yeah, I recall the podcast was maybe it was in 2020 because it was online, and at first we were only recording in studio in person in Montreal. Yeah. But when the lockdowns happened, we switched to online. And I'm kind of grateful because it allowed us to meet other people through the web. But the crazy thing is that I think the following year, actually, we met in person because 2 years after, yeah. 2 years after, you had a semi-nomadic life around the world with Jordi. And one of your pit stop was Montreal. And we met. And I think you were there for Marcus' birthday.
like the
Was
first
it?
one or the second one. I don't know.
I don't remember, yeah.
So I remember
Possibly.
you bought a cake. You bought a cake,
yeah.
so.
True.
And yeah, that's the magic of online. The tools like can allow us to connect with other people. But I think what's interesting with your story is because of the lockdowns, you work very hard to create an experience online that people can replicate in their own home.
Yeah.
I think that's the value I saw, like to describe the games a bit more concretely. It was any games you can play with either nothing or very simple things like a broom, a bucket, balls. You don't have to purchase anything. And even though I didn't have a child at the time, at first, or when Marcus came, he was too young to play the games, but I always envisioned myself playing them one day. And that day is coming soon. He's 2.5 now.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
we're getting there. And I thought that's the type of things I want in the world. So we kind of worked together in launching the product, and we don't know how exactly and when, but I feel like we might bring also your ideas to the francophone world and translate it eventually. So people stay tuned. But then and I think what we both lived is we were grateful that we could connect through the online world, and it kind of helped us in during a moment where we felt so isolated. But then when we were free again, I think something came back to your life, which is in-person workshops. So can you explain, like, how did it feel for you to be locked down and then to go back to what you love so much, being around people in real life?
I think it was hard. I was just a new immigrant to Australia, and it's like 3 months after I arrived, everything closed. Australia was very much closed. People were very fearful, and I couldn't socialize. And you feel like it's a lot of alienation because but it was funny because everybody was in their home. So like people who already also lived in Israel couldn't see each other as well, even if they were neighbors, you know. So for me, I was like, actually, I was living in a very beautiful place. I was surfing almost every day, you know. So I was a very lucky person in my circumstances at the time, but I was also isolated. So yeah, meeting you people, you were like really. Remember, we had like those 3 hours conversation easily, and we could have gone for 30 because we really resonated on these topics and from the other sides of the world. So there was, in every, you know, crisis, there is an opportunity if you're open enough to look at it as an opportunity, as an offering. So it was a good time to go in and then to create. So I created the Moving Nature. Our product took us 2 years. It was a happy time for me because we were in creation. We were studying a lot online and learning about what we're doing, and a lot of people were watching us. Like we had videos that we just organically reached 100, 200,000 people like that, just because everybody was home and we were offering activities. So it was good. I felt like I was in service. I'm actually doing something. So we're not connected with the outside, but inside the house we can connect. And the thing to connect with, I was teaching a lot of that environmental studies and sustainability. I don't want to introduce more stuff to the world. We have enough stuff, more than what we need. We need the imagination. So let's take the broom, let's take the chair and playify it. Let's make it a game. I anyways do it in my life, you know. I play with everything. So and I think that's what caught you. Like, I was putting pots on the floor and making it a balancing game for kids and adults. And you're like, you know, why do we need to buy another stuff? You know, just more money and more trash. And so that was an opportunity, yeah, to connect with myself and with others through the online, but also in the inside and with nature for me. But then my calling is, this is what I realized actually after I launched. Like, so you have this, I have this product or this resource, I want to get it to the world, and so many hours you need to be in front of a computer, and you need to do social media, and you need to do, you know, collaboration and marketing and like all this stuff, and I'm doing it, but my passion is to teach, like to teach and to learn also. I love being a student, and I love being a teacher, and I love to interact with people. And that is my main focus since, I guess, COVID ended. I went around the world, a lot in Israel, but then also in Europe and in Canada. And I went into taking our stuff and doing public speaking and workshop, like playful workshop, mostly for education staffs, about how to playify, how to bring more movement and play into kindergartens, into primary schools. And I did that for like a good, year and a half, 2 years. Just me and Jordy were house sitting around the world and looking for opportunities to kind of, you know, say to the world, you know, we can do things better. We can have fun while doing it. We can engage with one another. We can have meaningful connection that is not only talking heads, that have more elements, because this is also actually how we evolved, and this is what makes us feel alive and makes us feel there's meaning in the world. And we're not in our silos, especially after COVID. Everybody was like, everybody I go to, doesn't matter if you're Orthodox religion, or if you're secular, man, woman, everybody resonates. Like, it's amazing, and everybody wants to move. You just need to give them a permission to, and when you do it right, it just works like magic, because we have a deep need that is not answered, and we are covering it with other stuff, but it doesn't answer the real need. And yeah, so I did that, and now I'm in a small community, and at really at the end of the world left, we say in Hebrew. It's really very much nowhere, and working a lot with the community. And yeah, I can expand on that if you want, but we moved to more,
yes,
in person.
Yeah, well, your lifestyle for a while was fascinating. Like the fact that you paid almost no rent. You were sitting,
no rent for almost 2 years. Yeah.
You took care of the dogs and the pets.
Love dogs
for people in exchange of housing.
Yeah.
And you traveled everywhere. It kind of shows your social interest. How do you say that? Your social drive to go toward people and be in their home while they're not there.
It's fascinating also to live in other people's homes. You really see how they live. You see what they eat. You see the furniture. You see a lot of Western culture with and then before you move to your own house, you have like, I know what I like, I know what I don't like, it's really actually, it's a very playful endeavor before you move to your own, if you want to move to something more permanent.
And it's interesting because at that time I was also very focusing on active design and how we can change the way we design our home. So you also had those lenses where you would analyze what's around you and trying to figure out how can you move more in the standard home, because most homes you visited, even though they were small, were kind of furnished with regular stuff, right? So
couldn't move.
You had to sorry?
Couldn't, like Katie Bowman, the ass to chair ratio was horrible. You couldn't move.
Very high.
You can't do a cartwheel. We had to move everything so we'll have some place to dance and hop around. I just want to say in a second, I've said the word active design since I met you so many times, to so many people, and to so many, by the way, interior designers and architects. Nobody knew it, and everybody was so intrigued. So I think it's genius. I just think it's genius.
Oh, Well, it's not mine, but I think what we try to bring it into the homes of people. It comes from urbanism and like building architecture, and we thought, well, how can we design homes that make us move differently and that can encourage us to go outside? Actually, that's my new thing now.
Yeah.
How can my home be less comfortable so I want to be outside more? It's quite hard, I must say. I'm in a season of my life where I do certain types of activities less regularly, and I need new ideas to move with my family, with Marcus, who's 2.5. So that's why I think there's a revival for me of moving nature. Of I don't want to go to the gym alone and then send Marcus to do other activities. How can we be together and move together? And that's really because of you that I think I have this vision now of doing things together. So you moved a lot. You were a nomad, and then you settled.
Yeah,
you chose one place.
Sort of. We're not really settled, but let's say semi-settled. Yeah.
Okay, semi-settled. Why Denmark? Why that place?
So we were traveling a lot through Australia, actually. We lived in a few states. We lived in Victoria, and then we moved to New South Wales. And Jordy's family is from Western Australia. And the thing with COVID is that we couldn't move to Western Australia for 2 years. They didn't allow us to come in to visit our family because they completely shut the borders. So when COVID kind of started to finish, we decided, like, if we're living in Australia, we should live close to our family. We also are in a journey to start our own family, so it made sense. And Western Australia is huge. Yeah, it's a very big. It's like the size of Europe, I think. And like Denmark is a small rural beach town with the most amazing nature. It's really one of the most blessed places I've ever seen. It's a bit looks like man before he touched and messed around with nature too much. So there's an amazing forest and the most incredible beaches, most incredible, really. Everyone, like, picture perfect and endless. And then you have like river, and so nature-wise is amazing. And Jordy's uncle and auntie is living here, so we came and visited them a few times. And every time we came here, we felt something special. So the thing with rural Australia is that most of the time these little towns are not very inspiring. Unfortunately, it's kind of, you got the pub, you got the fish and chips, you know, something like that. That's it, you know. And a lot of people are like old school and farmers, and not a place for us that are a bit out there, you know what I mean? Let's say a little bit alternative or thinking outside of the mainstream. But what happened with Denmark, with the history, like in the 60s of the 20th century or the 70s, something like that, a lot of people were considered alternative or hippies, let's say, they wanted to create little intentional communities here. So they weren't extremely hippies. People make them like they weren't like the Americans in those days, but they were thinking about we can live life differently, and live more in tune with nature. They are way ahead of their time, I would say. And they were not welcomed very nicely in the beginning, but then actually their diversity they brought to the place slowly made this place an attraction, because they brought crafts and they brought arts, and they were very educated people as well. And suddenly this rural town already had this amazing natural beauty, became a bit special. It had character, and people wanted to come. It's 5 hours from Perth, the main city, but people started to get intrigued and come. And like now we're talking now 50 years after, and it still has that very much blend of a lot of arty people, a lot of alternative people that are very community focused, and also a lot of more conservative people, still the farmers or the loggers, or, and it makes an amazing, I love places like that. I actually, my favorite places, like there, I have a teacher who says, diversity creates immunity. I always felt that. I felt that in Brazil. I felt that in the school I taught. It's like the microbiome, or like bring a lot of looks, not only like one thing. Bring a lot of opinions, bring a lot of colors, and the environment is rich. I think this is how, this is how creation works. Look at the jungle, loves diversity. It's so creative. So Denmark is a place that has different poles and contrasts. So it has good surf as well, has amazing, it's just a very playful place. And when I was actually at your house in Canada, I started to be fascinated by tiny homes and off the grid tiny homes. And I was just being like a bit obsessed on the YouTubes of looking at tiny homes. And then when we moved here, so we started, Jordi, my partner, started a dance school, like, and a dance company, and it went like this. Like, Jordi's unbelievable in what she does, and exactly what was missing here in the community, and it became very successful. And then one of the parents came to us. He heard we were looking for a place. It's hard to find places here, and he said, we just build our dream tiny home for the last few years, and we need to move, and we heard you're looking for, and they offered us a tiny home off the grid, which looks like those YouTubes that you would see, unbelievably, all wooden, just the dream.
Is it where you are right now?
Yeah, and it's just like really like a really YouTube tiny home, and it's in the middle of the bush. Like, we have no one around us, and it's off the grid, so we learn to live self-sustained, and we really manifested it in a way, and it came to life. And so that, with the idea of we need to settle down to start our own family, and with this place which is special and is community oriented, is nature oriented, and our business, like Jordi's company, is going very well, and it has a lot to offer. We still are not, we don't want to be here all year. I can expect, like, we are life designing the fact that we're out of here every 2 months for at least 2 weeks, and then once a year we want to be outside of Australia. So we're building this a bit semi-nomadic experience, because this is who we are. Jordi, before she met me, she was traveling in Europe and Israel for like 12 years as a dancer and choreographer. So she's even more nomadic than me. So we want to live, be a part of a community, and we are. And I have created not a lot, but I've created quite a few interesting offering for the community that was received very well here. And yeah, so this is where we're at now, Denmark. You're welcome to come. Beautiful place.
Oh, yes. I'm saving for that moment, Dor. I really feel like I'll go. When I was pregnant, I felt like Marcus wanted a lot of sun, and to see the sea and have the waves. And I'm sure it's because all the talks we had together, you were telling me the dreamy places where you were living.
Yeah. You would love it here.
I really know. I'll go.
You have so many, like, I don't really love this phrase, but like-minded families here that do homeschooling and do very natural way of bringing up kids in the community. So I think you would really fit in here with a lot of people, and also inspire a lot of people with the work you're doing, because you guys are bringing so much to the world.
I think, yeah, one of the most compelling reason is for me is you guys, in the sense that I realize how we are super focused now on building relationships in our community, because we also moved from Montreal and settled in a small village with a great community. So our focus in the last year was to build new relationships, but also to have deeper connection with people. And the idea of going somewhere and know at least one person there that I really like and love it feels more like home to me. When I was younger, I traveled a lot too. I visited different places, and now I realize that I want beautiful beaches, of course. But the way I see it is, I don't know, I have this vision where we will just go out, have a coffee, and knowing you would like know everyone and talk to everyone.
That actually is like that.
And just show me around, and I would just feel like I'm living the normal daily life of the place instead of just being a tourist.
Yeah, that's the best way. That's the best way. And you can also have you can, a very strong thing here is van life. So families come, they have a van or a bus, and they just travel. Just the best life. It's such an amazing educational experience. Can be for Mark Aurel as well, you know. This is the best school of life. Yeah.
So make babies, and then we do homeschool together.
Yeah, that's the intention.
So you said you created projects for the community that were well received. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll do a little reflection about what I see here, because like what we have here in the community and what is missing for me and what I'm trying to bring, and I think that would resonate also with your efforts. So I come from my background is interesting because first of all I'm Israeli, and Israeli is I would say it's a semi-Western society, if you've ever been there, because it's very much Middle Eastern in a way that, and very cultural, and still have that very traditional religious kind of rituals. So I was not brought up in a religious family in no way, but we still kept the rituals of like until you die, basically. Doesn't matter how old you are. At Friday evening or Saturday lunch, depends on the family, you go to your family, and the family gather, and people come, and you have a big meal. And this is like, it didn't change. Now I moved, but my brother and sister are still, we're in their 40s. They're still going every weekend, and now there's babies. So it doesn't change. And then you have the holidays, and there's a lot of Jewish holidays. So, and there's always around food and gathering, and it's just a ritual way, and this is how communities are built. And you have that rituality of coming together. So what is community? Community is a verb, actually. It's not something, okay, I want to live in community, and it happens, like, because I live in a community. No, community is coming in unity regularly. This is why, by the way, a lot of our friends are from the school times. Because that's what happened. Like, why would a lot of people remember school as a good time, because they used to come in unity with their friends and deepen relationships in some kind of a ritual. But now, and this is where I'm coming to Australia, I'm coming to this ultra secular, like modern world, you know. Australia is a very modern world. Not its ancestry, obviously, but the majority of the people, and it's vast, huge, like Canada. So a lot of people move out of their parents' house and they live far, and then there's very little influence of religion anymore here. So there's no rituals to meet. And then you see that things of the pandemic of loneliness and disconnection and the meaning crisis. I'm very interested in that. Is very prevalent here. It's like in also what I saw in Canada and US in Europe, because we don't do the basic stuff we used to do. We are living in such a weird way, the Western, that is so disconnected to the way we evolved as humans. You know, you talk a lot about that, and we need to. But what do we value? We value the sense of freedom. So I come here and I'm starting this classes or this. I'll tell you soon what I'm doing. But like the thing that is hard the most is to make people commit. You know, and of course life is complicated and people have family, but there's also a lack of commitment in their in how they live, because that they don't want to be committed. You know, just like, I'll come when it's comfortable, when I want to have community, but then it's like, you see how it's kind of withers. Even the greatest ideas, they just kind of wither. And that's what the church or the synagogue or the mosque, they do very well. You need to come. Like, that's the ritual. You come every Sunday or every Saturday or every Friday or whatever. And then magic happens. Actually, what is church? Church is gathering. That's the word comes from, just to gather. You know, so that is lacking from I find in very Western world, and we need to kind of bring that commitment. Hey,
mini pause. Si cet épisode t'inspire, tu peux inspirer quelqu'un d'autre en retour. Tu peux avoir un impact positif sur la vie de quelqu'un d'autre. Tout ce que tu as à faire, c'est de laisser un review pour le podcast de Vivace. Dès maintenant, tu peux prendre ton téléphone, ouvrir ton application d'écoute et laisser un commentaire. Pas besoin de te casser la tête, écris une chose que tu as aimé de la discussion. C'est ce qui nous permet de faire rayonner des idées et c'est ce qui te permet d'aider quelqu'un en retour.
Also, the other background I have is as a martial artist. I don't think I missed, in my first 10 years of capoeira training, I don't think I missed one training. Maybe one time I was sick. In 10 years, my first 10 years. Like, I was so committed because I was loving it. Like, nobody forced me. But also I had this discipline of like coming, you know, and I think discipline from the word disciple is to come, to learn, to be, you know, and so having said that, I started a group of a play group in nature for adults. So we do it every Friday morning in the park, and that kind of became like this community. So people afterwards after the play group, they go to the coffee shop and sit. And the idea of playing as adults is with my intentions of, this is a bit like, what's my messaging today is like, it's a bit from coming from Katie Bowman, but then expanding it a bit to what I do. So like, move more of your body parts, move more of your body parts with others, playfully, in nature if possibly, and that brings a lot that connections back. And so that became like a ritual. But again, I must say that I'm also struggling to make people commit, because especially where we live, people are very much like they don't like, again, to commit. So I have a few people, core people that come every week, but the majority is a bit scattered. And then the other things that I'm passionate about that I created here is what I call the Dream Dojo, which we created a playful co-working space. So we're reimagining the workplace. So we hired for one day a week this amazing studio on top of a cliff on the beach, just unbelievable. And there's a lot of people here that after COVID moved from the city, so they work from afar. You have a lot of freelancers here, entrepreneurs, artists, whatever. And we see each other working in the coffee shops, and people are, you know, really hunchback on their coffee, just in the coffee shop, just you know, drinking another coffee, another croissant, and they're just, again, isolated. So it kind of happened organically. We kind of met in the coffee shop, a few of the you know, those digital nomads, so-called, and we said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And we went on this journey of meeting every week and talking about our passions and where we at, and this necessity for a co-working space in town came to life. And then I kind of like at night, because I have this kind of entrepreneurship mind, I was like, let's make it a playful co-working space. And this idea, this word of well-beings came to my head. Of well-being is done in groups. You know, we need to help each other. So now we have every Tuesday on the top of the cliff, we have a playful day, which means it's very interesting. We come together, we're like 12 people now, committed to come, and we start with an opening circle. We raise a question, what is our intention to do today, to work? There's accountability, but also we talk about a little bit about what's holding us back, what's our passion. We kind of try to reignite that together. And then we go into a movement session, so a playful movement session for 15 minutes. Then we go into deep work, so an hour and a half of deep work. And we have various, you would like that, active design. We have various stations to work in. And then we stop, we go into, again, the group goes into a playful movement activity for like 10, 15 minutes. Then we eat together. Everybody's bringing something healthy to eat. And we bring somebody from the community, a mentor or an entrepreneur, to talk about what he's doing to inspire us. And like people come, this is from my background to work with mentors.
Every
week we have someone else. Sometimes it's people from our own community because there's amazing stories, and we also, and there's magic happening. We made like some woman who was just about to having a baby, like she's in her last weeks. She made her dream project, and because we created for her, like instead of a deadline, a birth line, we called it. So I like that better than a deadline, because we were birthing something at the end. You know, me and you did that. Okay, we birthed Moving Nature. Yeah. We had the birth line with you. Exactly. I did the same with Marcarel, actually, and with Moving Nature. Yeah. So we had a birth line. We were really pushing it. So we were helping one another. This idea, we don't need to be isolated. We're not competing. We're really helping one another. But we're also introducing movement and play and eating together and coming together in nature. So it's very stacked. It's very nutritious, and you get that. It's not only, we don't chase money, we chase also the social aspects of it, the social wealth, connection. What do we value? We talk a lot about values. That's coming up a lot. The mentors are coming. A lot of the life-work balance, or I call it like the life-play balance. You know what I mean? Make work your play. And there's a lot of, I'm very excited about that, and I think this should be in every little place or every little city, like this kind of dojos. Why did I call it, by the way, a dojo, for people who don't know? Like a dojo is, from my martial art background, is a space, a hall, a studio that you come to challenge one another, but in a safe environment, there's a lot of ethics in a dojo. It's very respectful. You don't talk badly about one another, but you do challenge one another in a playful way. Martial arts is a playful endeavor, you know, at the core of it. And we want to grow stronger together. We are better together. We can push one another. So that's why I call it the dojo and the dreams, because we can really dream. We really can dream the best life for ourselves and for the world. And an amazing crew. Every one of the people there is I don't know how we attracted people who are in the environmental space, people who are in the design space, designing a better world, better life. Everyone there is coming from or thinking about something that is passionate about, but also it kind of comes seamlessly with your passion. Actually really helps the world, you know, and it aligns, and people are valuing their time with the kids. A lot of families, and there's making space to think about themselves and what they want to do, but a lot about how they navigate through motherhood and, you know, parenthood, etc. So I'm doing that. We opened, me and, like, it's mostly Jordi, but I'm helping the dance school. So we have, in less than 9 months, more than 100 students. So imagine, this is a town of 5,000-6,000 people. So imagine the amount of people we know. And a lot of the time we teach the kids, and then we teach their parents as well. And now I'm going to the elderly. So Jordi, she's doing, she got a grant next term. We're doing an intergenerational dance program. So all, like, from small kids to, there's no limit to the age, and they're going to do a performance at the end of it. So we got a grant from the Shire here to mix it up. I love intergenerational. I go now every Tuesday. I actually saw it in Canada to play pickleball in the recreational center here. So
you did?
There's now, it's new for us. And I love it. I knew it from Canada. But what I love is that the intergenerational, you have people who are elderly, you have kids there, and you have, like, and we're all playing and we're mixing it all up. We're all the time switching. And I love that. I love that intergenerational, because this is how, like, why do I love it? Because this is how it's natural. This is how we evolve. And I think it really resonates with me. And I have, my friend says, like, you're downloading things. So I have downloaded, I don't know, something about this idea of, this is what I was talking all day in the dojo yesterday about the Well-Beings Project and how to create an ecology of practices in a community, so we can, all the facilitators and people, to introduce people with an ecology of practice. So that's a term, another amazing Canadian, John Vervaeke, that I follow and learn a lot from Toronto. Would really highly recommend to check his work. But to cultivate an ecology of practice for yourself that balance one another. So for example, if you have a meditative practice, you should have also a contemplative practice. So this one is inward, one is outward. If you have, like, imagine you're like a gym guy and you only do weights, but then you see them, they're very unflexible, they're not mobile. So you need to balance it. A good democracy used to be an ecology of practice, used to be. It's called, like, an opponent processing, where the fact that we have different, you know, perspectives makes us grow and be better because we're seeing each other's blind spots. But now it's like adversarial, like it's only about demolishing one another, to ruin one another, the left, the right. And we don't grow, we just in a competition. It goes back to our education and our economic system, but that's a bit of a tangent. We can do another podcast about that. But in ourself, we need different practices. So for example, now I started to go, it's me and another 13 women. I'm the only man. I go to Jordi's contemporary dance class because I know it's not the thing I'm attracted to the most, because I'm kind of more in the martial arts, more this nature things. But it's the thing I actually need the most, like to work more on rhythmicality and more of aesthetics of movement. And that's an idea of an ecology of self-practice, but then a community needs that. So people will get out of their comfort zone and will introduce people with this education of, and this is a very playful mindset of, like, we need to tinker with different things and not just stay in our own grooves, our own comfort zones. That's my playful approach in general. And I think it's so important in the education realm for all ages now, because we are heading in a world that is changing dramatically, you know, very, very fast with this new technologies and different crises or whatever we are facing. And the thing we need the most is the ability to deal with changes, with surprises, to be resilient and to have deeper connections, to withhold what is coming, to support one another, and to have a resilient body and mind that can deal with change. And that's for me as an educator. I work today still with a lot of educational systems, mainly in Israel, with moving creatures. And I talk about what do you prepare the kids for? What are you preparing adults for? Things are all changing, very fast. If you have just played a little bit with AI and stuff, you understand the where are we heading? This is internet 3.0, whatever. And so we need to learn to be in discomfort, and we need to enjoy it actually. And that's where play is coming to reimagining our life, tinkering with a lot of possibilities, doing it together, not living in little isolated silos. And we can bring the future is not set in stone. The future is what we write. And if we as a community gather with an open mind, we can create a much better world. I'm not from the doom and gloom kind of people, because I'm more of a dreamer. And I think I see the opportunities, And if you come with a doom and gloom, we're all done, AI is going to kill us all, and then the crisis, the environmental crisis and wars, and, then you can't move into action. And it's not joyful also the time you are in here. So I think the future can be endless abundance of amazing, and we actually need to rethink the way we're living now in the Western world, and take what we have learned from ancient wisdoms and other ways of living and traditional. It's funny, they call them third world countries or developing countries. That's so, looking from up, but we have so much to learn. We have lost so much on the process, and we're miserable in general. A lot of people are miserable and depressed, and just take a little bit, use what we have with the tools we have, and bring kind of a better world. Big speech I had now.
It's good, because I was processing the information, and it makes me, it's a good reminder for me of what I appreciate about our discussion. Is when I discovered Moving Creatures, the games were so simple and full of light. Like it was very joyful. But then talking to you, I realized that it was not shallow. Like you thought deeply about the meaning of movement. Actually, you called it meaningful movement.
Yeah, meaningful.
And I think our first podcast was around that. What's the meaning of movement? And also the fact that I hear you were a nomad. You like to move. You move right now.
Yeah, changing positions. Yeah.
But also, what's interesting is I know you did a lot of meditation retreats and vipassana. So you also have this other side of you where you appreciate to stop and listen and create a bit of order in yourself, and then decide after that where to move next. And what I hear also from you is this dichotomy, like the fact that we need to be resilient and to adapt to a changing world, but at the same time, the learning process to be creative needs commitment. Yeah. And that word is so not popular right now. Yeah. I mean, it's not unpopular, but it doesn't sound like attractive or fun to say I commit to something, because you nailed it. We value freedom so much because we've been taught to value freedom in an individualistic society. The freedom is top. It's like you can be whatever you want, and you can get anything you want. And we lose this perspective that as a species, we are not born to be alone and have all the abundance for ourselves. We are social beings. And thinking about the meaning of movement for me drastically changed my perspective of what it means to be human. And I also valued in the past freedom above almost everything. I pride myself for being independent. I pride myself on not needing anyone, and I struggled to ask for help, and because I saw it as, am I needy? Am I pushy? But when you have a child and you realize that you cannot do everything on your own, and I felt like I was kind of forced to go out of my shell, and it was the hardest, but also the best thing that happened to me. And now it resonates when you say you need to commit to something, and it's kind of a new word in my life and a new value. And I want to encourage people to, yes, you want to explore, you want to open your mind to new things and feel that freedom of exploration and creativity, but you also have to anchor yourself in a place or in some practices and show up, because even when it's hard. So thanks for...
I think if we don't choose our commitments, somehow culture chooses it for us, you know. So then people are starting to just get addicted instead of commitments, you know. So Netflix, or is it, you know, alcohol or whatever. And I think Vince was the one who used to say that commitment is freedom. I think he's told me something like that. I love that. When you got married or something, and I think it's really resonated with me, because there you can go deeper when you're committed and you choose your commitments, and then there's a lot of freedom inside it, you know, because you go deep and you can play with and you're not shallow. And I think that's what I like about an ecology. So it's not this or that, it's this and that. Have some anchors, like, you know, like a baby needs routines, but then also have place where you're flexible and you can play inside the routines and you can explore. So tell you how I'm doing it in our lifestyle design, or this is our wishful now thinking, because we always kind of try to think, how do we want to live, and then actually do it. So yeah, we've been nomadic for a long time, and there's a lot of freedom there, but there's like everything, there's a trade-off. There's a lot of instability. You don't have your own stuff. You're living from a suitcase, you know, and you don't, I meet people, but then I go away. So it's hard on that, you know, not being close to family a lot of the time and people you care about. So how do you mix it up? And so now we like, okay, for us, we really want to be in community. We want to commit to this community. We want to serve this community. We have a lot to serve and to be served by. There's amazing humans here. So I learn a lot. But I still have that something in me in the butt, you know, like this. I'm like a bee. I need to move. Something, I'm like, antsy, like antsy, like I need to move. And so is Jordy. And also we like to do like retreats and workshops. I'm going to a movement retreat in the bush for a week, in 1 week, with my teacher Simon. So our education a lot of the time is not here. It's somewhere. Maybe it's in a different state, maybe it's in Europe, maybe it's in Israel, maybe it's in the big cities. So, and we like also the big city as well, because there is a lot of art and stimulus there. So we do 2 months and then we leave for 2 weeks, you know, and then we, like I said in the beginning, and then one time a year we go for like 2 months, 3 months. So, and people do it here as well. We don't have kids yet, but people do this lifestyle with kids as well. And I think this is what technology allows us today. And so we use technology to have that freedom, but we mix it up. So we have a stable home base and we have our journeys and then from the journeys, we bring it back to the community again. So we come and we learn new stuff and we bring it back and we meet with our families, and we bring it to them, what we learned from the community practice, you know. So I've learned here a lot of things that I can bring to Israel now, especially now. And I think that there's a lot of flexibility, but then there is a lot of anchors of commitment. So I think people need to, now we have this kind of thing that we're in a very interesting times. We can really choose our lifestyle, but there's no one to compare to, because you need, and this is what I've been doing all my education system, tinker with a lot of stuff and then see what you resonate, what hits home. And then always also leave things to do things that you're not comfortable with on a weekly basis. So you'll always be tinkering with the growth aspect of it, but then have things that you dive deep into that you really are passionate. You know, for me, if it's movement or meditations, things like that, I'm just like, oh, I can do that all day. But then sometimes I need to go and do something that I'm not usually, or to meet people that I don't usually talk to, you know what I mean? Open that. And yeah, we used to call ourselves, when we were doing it, you were saying we were like in the entrepreneur, where we're trailblazers. We are carving a path that people have not walked in. Like what I do, like moving creatures, almost nobody's doing this kind of stuff. So it's also hard to monetize or hard to understand what's the model, because first of all, you want to create new models that are not the same thing. But then there's no one it's hard to compare it. So that's why we need each other. We need to reimagine life, to look at things from the past that worked. And we need to do it together because it's so fun and joyful. And the physical aspect for me, there is like to play with other people, with ideas, with movement modalities, to do it in nature, in a not stationary place all the time, to go for walks, to go for, you know, to be in the beach. And then that is the ways we know each other the best and we grow the best. And I think if you look at nature, that's how it does. When I was thinking a lot that nature is really a playful endeavor, you know, or like creation is a very playful endeavor. So think about it. It's like there's species and then, you know, they collaborate in an ecology. They all like checks and balances all the time. But then there is the tinkering. It's like evolution. There's a mutation, you know, some species trying something new. And if it adapts, then that becomes a new species. That why we have so many different flowers, so many different animals, so many different trees. Because it's a playful endeavor, it's like always keeps it alive and playful and enjoying. It's just amazing to be in this kind of a world. And when we become like stagnated, disembodied from what's going on, then we are not, you know, sucking from this richness of what. And we are the peak of creation in the animal world, let's say, you know what I mean? We have that ability to actually observe and be conscious of what's happening. So I'm really passionate about how do we, in a way, live fully, bodily and mind, like the body-mind. It's the same for me. That's the embodied aspect of it. And then not only, that's why I said there is a lot, I guess me and you would be in the well-being maybe kind of frame, but that's why I'm thinking the word of well-beings. Well-being is also a very Western. How do I take care of my sleep? How do I take care of
self-care?
Self-care, you indulge, but no, well-beings. We are human beings, you know. You're not, and to put an S at the end and do it together with that. You know, but with your boundaries, like we are a lot in community, but then we retreat to our tiny home off the grid in the middle of nowhere. We recharge, you know, we're isolated here, and then we come back every day and we bring self again. Yeah, I think everyone is a different persona, different personalities, but I think everybody can benefit from everyone in a way. And, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Professor Dor.
I don't have my professor glasses. I need to bring them.
I think your passion is contagious.
Oh, thank you.
Like I see you moving, and I feel like I want to enjoy life fully, just hearing you. And I realize how numb my body has been for the last 2 years. I realized lately that I didn't think I have, but I have, I think, traumas from the birth of Marcus, because I had a C-section that I didn't want. So it's a whole story. And I just realized I was numb, kind of, and my nervous system kind of froze. And there are some types of activities that I feel I don't do anymore, because it's not that I don't have the energy. I just feel like it's blocked in me. So hearing you kind of reminds me of everything I liked about the domain we're in, like the movement domain, and the meaning of it's being alive. I'm curious, based on your experience as a teacher, because I never saw myself as a teacher.
Oh, you are.
I saw myself as I learned stuff and I share it with people.
Teachers. That's what teachers are supposed to be. Yeah. You're all teachers. Yeah.
And how do you ignite that aliveness and that desire to grow and to do new things and to learn to be comfortable with uncertainty? And how do you bring that in others?
So I think, first of all, you need to model it. That's like the number one in parenting and education. You need to be the change, kind of, you want to see in the world, kind of Gandhi thing. So you need to go back. If that's what you value in life, you need to practice it daily, routinely. You need to bring that energy and to really examine, and then it's contagious, because people want to, they see you. And you know, I'm in my 40s. I move better than what I was in my 20s. And I'm also, the energy levels are high, the creativity levels are high. So people want a bit of that. I guess that's what makes it. Passion is contagious. And because we have this mirror neurons, and we're really all much more connected than what we can even imagine. It's just an illusion, this connection. So you just bring that energy in, and I think that's something that helps people. And then, and two other things now is coming up to my head is, you need to create safe containers, and that I do that like in classes and workshops. And you need to give people permission to experiment in a safe place, and that's what you do. That's what you give your kids, actually. You know, kids learn more, I think, from 0 to 2 more than what you would learn your entire life. That's the research, because they don't have self knowledge, and like they just tinker, and they're just like just amazed, and trial and get up and trial again and get up and trial again, and just very curious, explorative mindsets, because their like self-conception, the ego is not even born, or like it's just getting born. And I think just being with that mindset, it's a shift in mindset of like, explore. You got this life. I used to do this with the kids. This is how fast it goes. It's short, you know. You have the most amazing machinery in the world. The body is by far, the human body is by far the most amazing movement machinery from all of animals. We're not the best runners, but we have the best abilities overall, and the intelligence is amazing. And so sometimes I'm telling people, like, I have all kind of metaphors, like you are having like a Lamborghini of a car. You don't know even how to press the speed, like you don't know how to ignite it, or sometimes I say like I like you have a guitar on your back you're carrying, and you know, you've seen people who play guitar, and that creates the most amazing, beautiful things. And you don't know even how to get it out of, you don't get it out of the case. You don't learn how to play it. you know. And then what happens with age, that guitar becomes heavy on you, and you start to, and it becomes an hindrance, and you become to don't like your body. So I think what I think with your case is like you like the body have experienced some kind of a trauma because you had an expectation. But that's one of the things we need to learn, to put expectations a bit in a, like it's our projections of how things should be, but life is how it happens, you know. And kind of like, I guess in your case, I would do a bit of working on releasing that trauma. What I'm just doing now is a modality of breath work. So I'm doing that every week. That's very, very powerful. That's moving your body and things that, for me, I have trauma from the war in Israel. So I know I'm holding it in my body very tightly, and I'm working on moving it away, like bringing it into movement so it will release that energy and I can flow again. And then go to spaces where you can get like that playful thing, you know what I mean? Like you used to play baseball, you know, and you get that community and you get that commitment. I think the thing with sports, you need to watch out. It's not like you need to watch out. Like if you're very competitive, and it's a very, like, that can bring that thing into you, which is good to observe it, but it's like, we are very much into finite games with like ending, and like, it's again, can be very ego driven, and opposed to what a lot of the things I suggest, which is infinite games, which you play for the play, you play for the growth, you play for the connection. You know, that's what, in a way, I like about pickleball. In a way, it's competitive. I just started it, my pickleball journey, but you all the time switch. I don't even know what's the score. Like, we win.
The score.
No, sure. It's all about just, I want to be better in this like craft, and I want to enjoy the people and to have smiles and giggles. But the amount of intelligence that happens, body intelligence, is huge. I know it because I'm kind of a geek of that. And also you can see the deterioration there with people who are older. I can see the cognitive thing that they see the ball, but it doesn't touch it, like, because it takes the longer time to respond. This is because you haven't moved your body a long time. You know what I mean? So I guess find joy. That's the first. Go and find things that you're feeling joy with, and do it with Mark Aurel, do it with Vince, do things that are in nature alone, like you do. In the things you do, you can experiment the way you walk, the places you walk to. So I guess it's just an approach. Like, how will I have a little of vitamin P into the day? Like vitamin play, vitamin exploring something. How can I put it in a week, an activity? And things just happen because you enjoy, and it reinforces itself, and the body feels better, and you have more energy, and you are more social, and that gives you more energy as well. And then you're on a trajectory of better life, you know. And then you come with that energy, and you model it to other people, and you inspire them, and you create a community around it. So I guess that's my answer in a nutshell. Maybe. I
will summarize. Play pickleball.
Play pickleball. Yeah, and you're in Canada. Like, it's kind of no, there's more things than pickleball.
No, I'm joking.
Find your poison.
No, I'm joking. What I take from this, and for me it's very important lesson, is find your joy. Talks to me, and this idea of that healing can be playful. I feel like I already projected that, okay, I'm gonna heal my trauma, my traumas, and it's gonna be deep, and it's gonna be serious, and then I'm gonna go like where it hurts, and then I'm gonna untangle that. But then you make me realize that we kind of need to acknowledge what's stored in the bodies, what's stored in our
there's a lot there.
Has been imprinted on our spirit. But we also need to release it, and to
let it flow.
And finding my joy is not the way I I build my days. Well, I deeply love what I'm doing, but I kind of have this vision that work has somehow to be serious, and even though I have fun, I feel that deep down there's this seriousness to my life. And if you ask me what do I enjoy the most, where do I feel alive, you make me realize it's been a while since I asked that questions for myself.
It's a great thing to orient around. Also, I just want to emphasize that play is not always joyful in a way that like fun, you know. It's like we think about play as something frivolous, something of child giggles, but you know, it's an approach, and playing with things can be playing with things that are really hard and that are challenging, you know, and doing things that, but it's still a tinkering approach that, like, if we disattach, this is a more like, I guess, meditative ideas of like, I don't attach myself to just, I need to feel that dopamine hit of joy, you know. I want to feel all the spectrum, but I also knowing it's moving in and out, and to observe it. But the idea that I'm willing to engage, and I'll tell you an example about I went into this breath work. I'm doing this workshop every week now, so we go do in a group like a 3-hour session with our facilitators, and one of the woman that is next to me, she's suffering from extreme chronic pain. Like, she's really not in a good, and she's young, and she's crying a lot, but she said at the end that although it's really hard, she feels at least she's in movement, that she's working to release it. She's in a process, and she knows she's capable of moving through this, and it's not stagnated, going and crawling into the corner or taking a lot of pills and just, you know, numbing yourself. It's facing it and letting it release, because, you know, again, life is too short to hold it all the time, and that brings joy. And I think what I like about, for example, a lot in the martial arts world, you put yourself in conditions that it's not fun, you know, getting punched or but you feel the joy after, that you have moved through something with somebody a lot of the time, and that you have, you know, you have found new limits in yourself, and that's satisfaction. You know, that's not fun. That's higher degree. That's expansion of yourself. And yeah, we don't do this enough with kids, by the way. That's an entire topic, like with the idea of risky play, because there's risks in not letting them check their boundaries, because they are not seeing how far they can go, and then they become very safe. But that's the risky part, you know, because life isn't safe, you know. And not completely safe, that's for sure. So yeah, that was my point, and I hope I think when you know what I like about our conversation is that when we talk, besides the fact now you're interviewing me, but I love to you know, when it's more reciprocal and we have the talk, because I think your brain is just the most curious, amazing, you know. And also, really, I think what you bring is a lot of like your intentions to really do good. Is you can't fake that, you know. It's just pouring out of you, and I think that's what you guys are doing with your platform, and I really enjoy it. And you really influenced my life with a lot of the work you introduced, and I think I bring it now to other people, and yeah, and we feed off of each other, and we make other people inspired, and they inspire us, and it's just like, yeah, it's happening. Things are happening.
It's very enriching.
Yeah.
It's almost all the time we have, because I have I still call him my baby. I still have my baby too.
My mother still calls me. My mother still calls me my baby. So that doesn't.
Yeah. So we will go to bed. We co-sleep still, and we all sleep at the same time. But I'd like to finish maybe with one question. With the aspect of community. When you explained to me that you like to go and meet new people, and that you like to be in front of a group and create this amazing experience for people, it's so out of my comfort zone. Like what you do is so inspiring to me, because it seems like so far away of my skills and my interests, but at the same time I just think it's so valuable. So I'm curious if we dive deeper into the experience you create with people. How do you create this safe space when you have this group and people that are not necessarily movers? That's what I like about your practice. It's not to teach only to experts, but also to people who don't move a lot, who don't inhabit their bodies anymore. How do you make them feel safe so they enjoy the experience instead of being intimidated by moving?
Well, it's a good question. It's a big question. I can talk a lot about that, but I'll try to make it very closing session. So first of all, I work with cognitively explaining to them, especially with adults. Kids don't need this, but adults need the cognitive explain of what are we doing here. And we talk about the neuroscience and about, if it's elderly, about dementia or Alzheimer's, and how to build new neural pathways, and how when we do the same things, we're just doing the same grooves in the brain and we don't learn. So we talk about cognitively, why is it good? What is it valuable to play and to move more of our body parts, to get out of stagnation and the stiffness in body and mind. So that first of all inspires people. I want that. I want to be less stiff. I want to learn more. I want to be... But everybody has, in our culture, that resistance. You know what I mean? Where, we're going to do partner work. Oh no, I don't know, strangers. Or, I can't move, or my body, or how do I look? So I'm very aware of that. So I try to really, a lot of the time I say, embrace the awkwardness, embrace silliness. If you're frustrated, you're learning the most. That's the way we learn as adults, in that frustration mode. You know, that's just the neuroscience part of it. And also I'm always saying, if you're the last, you're the best, because you're learning the most. You know what I mean? If you're like, you're completely discoordinated, it's the most amazing, and I'm trying to feedback them. Yeah, great failure, great attempt, you know what I mean? And then the process is scaffolding. So like most of my workshops of movement, when I do with educators, a lot of them are not movers in whatsoever, you know what I mean? And I just say the most important movement is from this to this, the smile, the opening. This, you do this a lot during the day, do this more, then open the chest, then like do a smile with your entire body and see how that feels. So little movements lead, and actually all big movements start with the little movements. So scaffolding, making people feel safe with being wrong, with being silly, embrace the silliness, and then bring a lot of playfulness and joy. So we are seriously playful. I always say that. We're seriously playful. We're serious about play, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. We put the ego aside, you know, and then I think and this is a bit of artistry and a bit of experience, when you create those containers where it's allowed, when you have the permission, then it's hitting that joy spot. Then even if you come really anxious to that scene, you get out like, I feel so good, and you want to come back to that feeling. You know what I mean? So I think in a pose, and there's a lot here, because you need to also be aware of what you've been indoctrinated with society, you know, with schooling system, that you need to get great scores about just repeating what other people told you. You know, that's testing. So a lot of my classes is not about people waiting for me to say what they need to do. Like, that's what people love the most. Just like yoga class, like, although I love yoga, but just tell me what's the next movement and I'll copy you. No, not necessarily. I create scenarios and settings, and you now need to be creative in that. And that leads people to the anxiety of, oh, I need to think for myself. But now you start to in getting to know your body inside and outside and with other people's body. And a lot of the time when we do partnering work, I think partnering work is so important because you're other oriented. You are the coach of the other now. You're not competing with it. So you need to be intrigued about the other's body, the sculpture. So leave yourself, like, let yourself go, you know. Let the self, and it's so so much relief when you don't need to think about your own little ego you created to yourself. What do they think about? It's so much energy we put on nothing. You know, I also say to entrepreneurs in the dojo, imagine that divorce what you're doing with the outcome. What do you care about? Like, what people think, if it will sell, if it won't sell. Do it because you need to do it. Do it for the doing it itself. You know what I mean? And life is so much easier like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think that's in a very short would answer that question.
Wow. Yes. Thanks for answering in a few minutes what we could talk for 2 hours.
That's another.
Thanks. Hearing you, I feel how my body's stiff and how my ego and my part of me doesn't want to let go of some things. So I need to commit on some things, but I also need to let go of others. So like you said, we can have both. Like, we can have both. So thank you. Just hearing you, I feel like started a healing process inside of me. Like, just I feel like so nice. It moves. It's moving in the inside. Thanks. Dor, we might we won't be in the same time zone soon.
When you come to visit,
I wish
it's your turn to come and visit.
It's my turn. So thanks for the invite. I really feel like we will meet in Australia one day for sure.
Yeah, thank you for having me again after 4 or 5 years. And you gave me, I did quite a few podcasts since then, but you're like, they empowered me for the first time to actually have confidence that I have something to say, to contribute. And everybody does, you know, from his life story. And I think... Again, what you're doing, your work, has influenced me tremendously, and I just love what you guys are doing. And you are teachers, both of you, because this is true teaching. You know, I remember being in your house and the amount of books, and you're so curious, and and just diving into coming from a certain way of life and to try a different way of living, and then introduce it to other people and co-learning from other people. And we need more of this, more and more. And I think we can be really optimistic about the future with people like you doing beautiful stuff. So thank you. Happy to be a part of it.
Thanks. Thanks, Dor. And I invite people to follow you. So Moving Creatures on Instagram.
Yeah, moving.creatures is our Instagram, or you have just Google Moving Creatures and you'll see our website. We're the first one. So.
The only one. Yeah. The one and only.
The one and only.
And we'll talk soon for the movement games with Marcus.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll need you.
Thank you.
I'll need private sessions.
No worries. You got it.
Well, thanks again. Have a great day.
You too.
I'm going to bed, but you're starting your day.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Thanks for being there early.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye. Merci d'avoir été avec nous cette semaine au Studio Vivace et merci à tous les membres du clan Vivace. Grâce à votre soutien, on peut offrir du contenu gratuit comme ça chaque semaine. Ça soutient la quête de Vivace et ça permet de faire rayonner, de pousser les idées encore plus loin. Les membres du clan Vivace ont aussi accès à du contenu exclusif. Chaque mois, on se rencontre pour un ralliement en direct et on échange sur des thèmes qui ont toujours rapport à comment se créer un mode de vie plus vivace. Le clan finance aussi le projet sur lequel on travaille en ce moment. On veut créer une application privée, un espace d'échange pour parler de pratiques alternatives, jugées alternatives, en dehors des médias sociaux conventionnels. Si ça te parle, va à vivace.maison/joindre le clan et abonne-toi. C'est 7 $ par mois, ça donne accès à plein d'autres bonus. Bref, on se voit dans le clan.